Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you. And before I forget, I do live in Val-d'Or, in the heart of the Abitibi. So any one of you that comes to the Abitibi, it's a promise. I will take you around. If you advise me well in advance, I'll even try to get you underground in certain of the mines.
But you gotta stay till the end, all right?
And I say this because I'm fluent in French and English. When they would have visitors come in for the many years, and there would be English visitors, well, the ministry would ask me to drive up and down the Cadillac and actually shout off the names of the shafts and give the historics and a bit of depth in the mining industry in Quebec and in the Abitibi. So the invitation's there. Just if you do come to the Abitibi, especially this winter, and you want to do a lot of skidooing, let me know. If you want to go underground, let me know at least 2 weeks in advance. So I'm going to be presenting Cartier Resources, but just before I get underway, we were listed in 2007, and from 2007 to 2011, what we basically did was grassroots exploration, remote projects, early stage stuff. And when say this in English without being too vulgar, when the shit hit the fan in 2011 and the markets dove, what we did is we had to reinvent ourselves, right? We had to craft a better product. We didn't know how long the bear market was going to last. Was it going to be 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years? But we knew that we had to move from being a grassroots explorer to having a higher end product. As Giovanni mentioned in his presentation yesterday, it's a bit like that Wayne Gretzky guy. What made him such a great player is he never skated towards the puck. He skated to where he thought it was going to be. Well, there's a second part to Wayne Gretzky's quote, and that is, after the camera was shut off, he also said, well, why would I want to skate towards the puck anyways? That's where all the big players are going to be, and I'm going to get bruised up. So we sort of did something that was unconventional or counterintuitive, and we convinced our board to go on a shopping spree. Instead of shutting down the lights and firing people and trying to just weather the storm, we actually spent money throughout this crisis, not knowing if we were going to make it. And so we bought 4 deposits, and that's what I'm going to show you. And when we emerged, or when the market started to pick up, guess what happened? Although the market wasn't paying attention to what our acquisitions and the activities we were doing, well, the major companies were. They had signed non-disclosure agreements throughout our acquisition process, and one of them, Agnico Eagle, said, whoa, before this gets out of control, how can we partner up with you? So they took a 19.9 stake in our company, injected $4.5 million. Well, their attention to us and their process of due diligence attracted other investors, and that led to another financing, which led to one bought deal with JP Morgan. So today we sit there with $12 million in the till, and we've initiated a very aggressive diamond drill program. All right, just before I get into the description of the program, this is part of the thesis of how we constructed our portfolio. That's the Benoit Deposit, discovered by Virginia in 2003. Sold to Goldcorp in 2006, and finally poured by Goldcorp 1 ounce of gold in 2016. So over a 13-year period, one deposit, almost $4 billion worth of investment, but just one company. And since then, there's been a lot of money for exploration around there, but there's no new discovery. Well, there's a few new discoveries, but no new deposit. Now, look at all these red dots in the Abitibi. All right, they're all listed there. I'm not going to go through them, but the common denominator is those. Not one of them was a new discovery. All right, they were all discoveries that had been made in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and then a bunch of things happened. The corporations that held these things left the Abitibi, or the price of gold intervened, but these things were shelved. The now infamous Canadian Malartic was a collection of smallish mines that were grading 3 to 4 grams until somebody wrapped his head around it differently and thought differently. and said, well, you know, this can become a mega mine, and it became Canadian Malartic, 10 million ounces. Because there's two things that will actually turn rock into ore, and one of them is the price of the commodity. And the second thing that does that is a disruptive technology or a better way of mining things. So there, people are actually mining a gram per ton gold in the Abitibi, and who knew that could be? So just to leave the slide, anything up here is frontier exploration. Everything in a traditional mining environment is what I call Renaissance exploration, and it can create a lot of wealth. And in that case, there are small mines, high grade, large mines, low grades. There is money to be made by juniors and seniors alike. Keep that in mind as I rip through the rest of the presentation. Property locations in the Quebec portion of the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. Our projects are the yellow triangles. I'll be focusing on the Chimo mine, and I hope to get to Wilson and Benoit. And the blue dots, well, that's El Dorado, just taken over by Integra. That's the Windfall project of Cisco. That's the Falco Pacific Gold-Rich VMS. That's what we call the new Cisco district. You'll note that we actually acquired our projects before this became a mining district, and that's one of the reasons that Cisco is one of our shareholders as well today. That's the Val-d'Or camp. So when that promise I made to you, if you come to Val-d'Or, you get off the plane, we'll go to a restaurant, and then I'll drive you up the highway over here, and I'll run off all these shafts, and you'll probably get you underground to Goldex or La Ronde or whatever. All right, I took this off of the Cisco presentation, and you know, they went and basically staked 4,000 claims. People say, why did they do that? You know, well, although this is the Abitibi, Val-d'Or-de-Rouen is stake solid. This is the Casa Berardi fault. This is the Detour fault. That is staked solid. Actually, there was frontier exploration to be done in Renaissance country, and it was that district, and they staked it up solid. We have 4 drills in operation currently. We have 2 on Chimo, 2 on Wilson, on Fenton. There's going to be 2 more in January, so 4 on Chimo, and then we're going to come back on Wilson in March and April. So basically 4 drills running from January on, and it's basically going to be a festival of press releases as I'll be presenting the details. All right, Chimo mine, the heart of this presentation. We bought the Chimo mine from a bankruptcy sale. Remember, the plan was to go on a shopping spree because we had anticipated that there was going to be a lot of distressed juniors in a bear market that would have to sell us these projects, their key assets, for really cheap prices. And there's really not a lot of competition because the seniors had been sent to the penalty box because they had overpaid for some projects and they hadn't delivered on these, and so they couldn't convince their senior managements to do these acquisitions. And the other juniors, well, not a lot of them had the cash that we had. So there was really not a lot of competition out there, and because we knew a lot of these projects, we had done our due diligence on a lot of them. Chimo was one, and when we got the call from the accounting firm saying, "Hey, do you want to bid on this asset?" We were able to send our bids in real quick, and we picked up this past-producing mine for $261,000. The price of a house in Val-d'Or is between $300,000 and $400,000. So we're really happy about that. The mine actually produced 3 times, all right? It produced in the 60s, 80s, and then again in the 90s. And when it was shut down in 1997, it wasn't for lack of ore. It was because the price of gold was $275 US. So circle back to Agnico's involvement. I've heard one of the senior people at Agnico say, "Phil, if it was making money at $300 US, it's going to make money at $1,200. And so there's the commodity thing. And recently they've they now know how to mine 1.5 to 1.6 grams per ton underground at a kilometer depth at Goldex, maybe like 40 kilometers away. And this is where the plot thickens. The mine sits on the eastern extension of the Cadillac Fault, as you can see there, and it's the only deposit that was, production ceased at less than 900 meters. As you can see, the rest of the deposits on the Cadillac, they extend well past a kilometer, down to 2 and locally 3 with La Ronde. There's a bird's eye view of the project. What's in black is mined out. There's the shaft. Here are in red are the partially delineated gold zones by Cambior at the time. I'm going to show you a slide looking through this here. There you go. So the same shear zones, all right? And here's the first mine right here. Half an ounce to multi-ounce material, but very thin. That's 1960s. In the 80s, a company called Louvain mined this vein right here, down to 500, and then they got scared. Hey, 500 meters, that's deep in 1980. So they started drilling to the south, and they discovered this. So that's mine number 2 in the 80s. They sold their project to Cambior for $6 million. And what Cambior discovered is that vein actually, there you go, the vein actually goes down at depth, but then horsetails and basically starts to broaden. They're mining at depth and they're discovering stuff, and they're inventorying other ounces, and then they get the same idea. They drill to the south as well, and they discover that. And from underground, they're drilling, and they're also discovering that the south shear is paying off. So basically, the catch here, the punchline is, what led a lot of the people, the geologists at Chimo left. Some of them are working for Goldcorp and Ion Gold and Hecla and Agnico. The catch here is that the material between the black lines, the veins that run, half an ounce to an ounce, well, that orange stuff is not 0 grade. It goes anywhere from 0.5 to 3 grams per ton. And that's what Agnico's thinking, is to wrap a lower grade shell around these veins and to see if they could kickstart it back into life. And our drill program right now is assessing that aspect of it. This slide is a screenshot of a 3D video that we've put on the website. How am I doing for time, Eric? Okay. I'm okay. Okay, let's try this then. And I'm not going to do what happened yesterday, I hope. There, we'll try this. If you go to our website, we put this on the website, right? And this is not meant as a promotional tool. It's meant as a tool to help our investors throughout the year follow the press releases that we're going to put out. Because it could become quite complicated for the investor that has no notion of geology or engineering and say, well, where do these grades relate to? So basically, every time we put out a press release, I could take you to this video and say, well, freeze the video at 2 minutes, 32 seconds. See that blue dot right there? That's what we've just intersected, all right? So I'll try this. If I bring you towards the end of the video, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to waste your time. I'm going to go back here and continue the presentation. Nope. Where do I have to? Right here? Is that it?
You want to try the video, so why don't you?
Non, je veux pas la vidéo. Je veux juste que tu remettes la présentation.
Ok. C'était.
Ah bon, voilà.
Parfait.
Bon, so please, throughout the year, as you see these numerous press releases come out on Chimo, go to the video or call me, because it can get complicated. And it's going to get complicated because the whole... You see, even when you don't have a video in your PowerPoint, it fucks it up. See, we had planned this. We says we're not going to put the video in the PowerPoint. Because if you launch the video in the PowerPoint, it fucks it up. And I managed to fuck it up. But I don't do this with drill holes, right? Usually, no? Wait. It's quite all right. I'll do the rest of the presentation without the PowerPoint. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Manuel. I owe you a beer. Yeah, and the reason, Sandbeater, I don't drink alcohol. So the reason it could get complicated is that the holes go from north to south. So they're gonna, the holes actually rip through a whole bunch of parallel zones, and it can get confusing. So go to the video. The other reason we've attracted another significant investor in the name of Cisco is because we sit right here, 7 kilometers from their proposed mill site, as I told you. That's what the Wilson deposit looks like right now at surface. It's one branch of the deposit, and it runs maybe 20 grams per ton over 5 meters in channel sample, 30 grams per ton over 3 meters at depth in drilling. And basically, you see this gentleman right here for scale. Look at the jerry can there. That jerry can or gas can is a picture of the mineralization we see at surface. That's a gold. It's about 2 millimeters in length, and there's where it is. So the system is 800 meters wide, 2 kilometers long, and I'm not going to read the grades here, but it's an old system that was neglected and ignored for many, many years because it wasn't in the right hands, and we purchased it for, I think it was 85 cents per ounce. And our objective next year is to further develop that. And see, so we drilled this year only to discover that the actual vector was down here, and we discovered a new zone to the north. And I was very fortunate to have Eric Lemieux come out to the field and actually see this so that he could say that I'm not lying about this one. And this is the project. This is a third deposit that we acquired from the Quebec government. The Quebec government got this project in receivership from a junior company that went into default, and then we simply went to them and said, "Can we option this project from you?" And they said yes. So I think this is one of a unique situation where, hey, all the success we get from this project is going to shine on Cartier investors. But what are you going to do if we start to hit big on this project at depth? You cannot buy SOCOM shares on the stock market. So, and I think they are one of the better partners to have. If this thing goes to be and becomes to develop a mine, then we've got the right people to accelerate the permitting. They're definitely not going to get in their own way, right? There are 2 machines currently drilling at depth down here, and if that succeeds, we're going to keep drilling, and then we're going to drill these 2 other target areas. And then finally, the Benoit Deposit. I have to pause here and tell you that is actually when Agnico Eagle started to get interested in us. 2014, we had drilled this at depth, at a depth of 700 meters below the Benoit Deposit. We intersected 70 meters of core that was grading, I think, 1.5 grams per ton. But the bonus is they had a geologist working for them that just finished a PhD thesis at depth on the Ronde, and he was in our booth, and he walked away, and 40 minutes later, Agnico's head management was in our booth. they at the time believed that it was the only thing that looked like the Laurent mine in the Abitibi. And from that, we kept doing our work, and eventually they got in for Chimo, but they're waiting for us to drill this thing. There's a location of the project between the Bachelor mine and the Coniagus mine held by Iron Here's the deposit at surface and at depth where we punched it, and these are the grades. I mean, the deposit itself runs about 6 grams over 54 meters with high-grade sections. We didn't want to re-drill that block, we drilled at depth. But what happened is in 2015, some brilliant fellow in the Abitibi came up with a method called Ore Vision IP. What it is simply traditional IP on steroids, and it reads down to 500 meters. That's the good thing. The bad thing is if you don't know what you're reading, it will actually create a lot of geophysical anomalies, and a lot of them may be artifacts. The companies that have deposits that were drilled off can tell the geophysicists, no, here's what I'm really looking for. And then the geophysicist could run the algorithm and weed out or take out the artifacts and only isolate the anomalies that look like the deposit. The Benoit Deposit was actually drilled with 72 holes, 24,000 meters. So we have a very good control on what the mineralization should look like. So if this is 250,000 ounces and 10 million pounds of copper, and we drilled down here in arguably what we see now as a weak part of the anomaly, then what's this, or this, or this? The method only can go down to 500 meters. So what the takeaway from my presentation is this. We sought opportunity during the low. We recreated a company that has advanced exploration projects. We've secured funding for many years to come. And we have, I think, the most notorious and well-respected chaperone in the industry with people like Agnico, Cisco, and sophisticated investors like JP Morgan. And I think that 2018 is going to be extremely exciting for us, and I encourage you to seek and read the press releases and do the video and enjoy, and call me anytime. And again, if you do come to Val d'Or, give me a call and I'll be your sightseeing tour guide. Cheers.